The Austin sun blazed gold across the Texas hills on a warm May afternoon, casting a shimmering glow over Michael Carter's wedding at a sprawling hilltop venue, white roses spilling down trellises like a bridal dream, the air thick with the scent of champagne and the dry heat of late spring. Hannah Carter, 28, stood stiff in a navy blue dress her husband James had picked from her closet that morning, its hem crisp but heavy on her frame, her arms cradling their 7-month-old daughter Emma, tight against her hip, Emma's pink cheeks flushed from teething, her tiny hands tugging at Hannah's necklace, oblivious to the storm brewing beneath her mom's forced smile. James adjusted his cufflinks with that practiced ease of his sharp suit catching the light, his voice low and firm as they stepped out of the car. "Don't start drama, Hannah. It's Michael's day. Look pretty, stay quiet. We're here for my brother." His tone a leash she'd felt tightening for weeks, his pride for Michael, the golden groom, glowing brighter than it ever had for her or Emma. She'd begged to skip it that morning, her voice cracking over breakfast. "Emma's teething, James. I'm wiped out. Can't we just send a gift?" But his glare sliced through her, cold and unyielding. "No excuses. Get dressed. We're not missing this." And so here she was, hair pulled back tight, her exhaustion buried under a layer of mascara, her smile rehearsed in the bathroom mirror till it looked real, her body aching from sleepless nights rocking Emma while James slept undisturbed down the hall. They took their seats near the front, just behind Michael and his bride, the chairs draped in white satin, the crowd buzzing soft. James leaned over, his breath hot against her ear as she shifted Emma onto her lap, her fingers brushing his hand for a moment of warmth. He flinched, sharp, like she'd stung him, his whisper cutting deep. "You're just a baby carrier today, don't embarrass me." And Hannah's chest caved, a hollow pit swallowing her whole, while her laugh light and brittle to cover the sting. Her eyes darting to the other wives, polished and poised in their pastel dresses, wondering if they too carried that same quiet wound, reduced to vessels for kids and convenience in their husbands' eyes. She didn't cry, not yet. Her grip tightened on Emma, the baby's babble a lifeline as the reception unfolded, James chatting with his cousins, his pride loud, her silence a shield she wouldn't hold much longer, the mic waiting in the wings like a loaded gun she didn't know she'd fire. Hit that subscribe button and ring the bell right now, folks. This Austin Tale's kicking off with heartbreak and heat, and it's about to explode with truth and triumph you won't want to miss. The Austin twilight softened the hilltop venue as Michael Carter's wedding reception hummed under strings of fairy lights, the clink of champagne flutes, and low laughter filling the warm May air. Hannah Carter sat rigid near the front, her navy dress clinging tight, 7-month-old Emma squirming in her lap, her tiny fingers tugging at Hannah's sleeve, oblivious to the wound James had carved with his hissed, "Just a baby carrier," still bleeding raw beneath her skin. The speeches kicked off. Michael's mom dabbed tears recounting boyhood tales, his dad cracked dry jokes that earned polite chuckles, and then James took the mic, his voice smooth and proud, waxing on about family loyalty and tradition, his sharp suit catching the light, his eyes never once landing on Hannah or Emma, his glow all for Michael, the brother he'd always put on a pedestal. The crowd clapped, warm and easy, and then Michael, grinning wide in his tux, turned to Hannah, his voice bright. "Hey, sis-in-law, say a few words for us." The microphone thrust her way like a live wire, James snapping his head around, his whisper sharp. "You don't have to, sit down." More command than care, his glare a steel trap she'd felt too many times. But her legs moved anyway, shaky but sure, her hands trembling as she passed Emma to a cousin and gripped the mic, its cold metal foreign and heavy, her heart thudding so loud it drowned out the hush falling over the reception hall. All eyes locked on her, James's burning hottest, a warning she could feel scorching her spine. She started, her voice a wisp, barely there. She cleared her throat, steadied her breath, tried again. "Weddings are moments we remember, right? Moments that stick with us." A few guests nodded, polite, and she glanced at James, his smile frozen tight. A mask she knew too well. "I remember mine, 26. nervous, hopeful, thinking I'd married someone who saw me, really saw me. A chair scraped awkward at a side table, and she pushed on, her smile widening like this was a warm-up, a joke. You dream of it, don't you? Sunday mornings with coffee, baby names in the dark, a hand when your shirt's stained with formula and you're too tired to stand. A soft murmur rippled through, James tilting his head, his jaw clenching, and she kept going, louder. But sometimes you wake up years later, and you're a ghost, not a partner, an accessory, a vessel, furniture that breathes. A fork clattered loud onto a plate, the silence thickening, Emma's babble cutting through from the back, innocent and sharp. Hannah turned to James, her voice cracking but firm. Sometimes the one who said you made them better flinches when you touch them, not 'cause they're mad, but 'cause they've forgotten you're human. His eyes narrowed, a storm brewing, and she swung to Michael and his bride. See each other always, even when it's loud, messy, hard. 'Cause when you stop, it's not marriage, it's a show. She dropped the mic back to Michael, her palms slick with sweat, and grabbed Emma from the cousin's arms, clutching her tight as she walked off, the hall buzzing low behind her. James didn't follow till they hit the parking lot, his hiss slicing the quiet. What the hell was that? You insane! And she met his rage, calm. I told the truth. Her words a spark igniting Austin's dusk, a fire she'd carry home, burning through the shadow he'd cast. The Austin morning sun crept weak and pale through the condo's blinds the day after Michael Carter's wedding, its light barely touching the kitchen's cold granite counters where Hannah Carter stood by the sink, her hands raw and cracked from scrubbing Emma's bottles under scalding water, the navy dress she'd worn last night. James's pick, stiff and unforgiving, now a crumpled heap in the upstairs hamper, the echo of his hissed, "What the hell was that? Are you insane?" Still clawing at her mind from their parking lot clash, his voice a blade that had sliced deeper than the Texas heat outside. She leaned against the counter, her fingers tracing the edge of a chipped mug, her body sagging from another sleepless night, rocking 7-month-old Emma through teething cries, her daughter's whimpers a constant hum that had filled the dark while James snored undisturbed down the hall, his side of the bed cold by the time she'd collapsed into it at 3 a.m. Her chest tight, not just from exhaustion, but from the weight of words she'd unleashed at the mic, words that had spilled raw and unfiltered in that reception hall, now hanging heavy in the silence of this sterile home. James shuffled in, his sharp suit swapped for a faded gray tee and sweatpants, his hair still mussed from sleep. He moved with that casual ease she'd once found charming, pouring coffee into his favorite black mug, the one with "World's Best Boss" etched in gold, a gift from his office crew he bragged about too often. His lips brushed Emma's forehead, where she sat strapped in her high chair, a rare flicker of warmth as he murmured, "Morning, princess." His voice soft for her, never for Hannah, before he grabbed his phone and flipped through it, scrolling emails or scores or whatever held his attention more than she did. He sipped his coffee, the steam curling up, and tossed out a flat order. "Gym in an hour, then my folks are coming by at 3. Don't mention last night." No apology, no glance her way, just a directive, his eyes sliding past her like she was a piece of furniture, a kitchen appliance he expected to hum quietly in the background. She nodded, her throat dry as sandpaper, her hands gripping the sink's edge till her knuckles whitened. She watched him move through the space like a stranger who'd wandered into her life, a man who'd once been magnetic, all sharp suits and quicker wit, noticing the way she chewed her straw when nervous, the books she'd dog-ear halfway through, his laugh pulling hers out big and loud across crowded bars in their early days. But marriage dulled him, or maybe it dulled her in his eyes, his corrections sharp at dinners. "Speak slower, Hannah, you sound frantic." His hand slipping from hers on walks, his excuses piling up. "Work's crazy, you get it." And after Emma arrived, he'd turned to ice, dodging her cries with a shrug. "You're better at that natural instinct." His laugh light like it was a joke, leaving Hannah to drown in midnight feedings, laundry stacks, doctor runs, her pleas for help met with, "You've got this, don't nag." His coldness a wall she'd stopped banging her fists against, her energy spent just keeping Emma fed and herself upright. Last night she'd bared it all, her voice cracking over that mic. Sometimes they flinch when you touch them, forgetting you're human. A truth she'd hurled at James in front of his family, his flinch at her touch replayed in her head now as she rinsed a spoon. The water too hot, her skin reddening, but she didn't pull back. The sting a distraction from the hollow pit in her gut. Not triumph, not yet. Just a heavy stone she'd dropped that kept sinking, pulling her deeper into the quiet war she lived every day. That afternoon, James's parents arrived. The condo's front door chiming as his mom swept in, her pastel blouse crisp, a wine glass already in hand from their car stash, his dad trailing behind, gruff and quiet in a plaid shirt, settling into the leather couch while Emma napped upstairs in her crib, the air thick with unspoken tension, the faint hum of the AC the only sound cutting through. His mom perched on the armrest, sipping her Pinot, her voice light but edged. "You were quiet at the wedding, huh? That tasteful little speech, though. Got tongues wagging all night, folks asking me what you meant." James's jaw twitched, a muscle jumping under his stubble, his fingers pausing mid-scroll on his phone. And Hannah forced a nod, her smile thin as a wire. "Sometimes honesty makes people uncomfortable." Her words a thread pulled tight from last night, sharp enough to draw a slow blink from his mom. Oh, it was honesty? No malice, just that passive cut, the kind that stung deeper than a shout, a family bred to smile through cracks, to bury bruises under polite nods and Sunday visits. Women like his mom, who'd probably never raised a voice, just swallowed it down with wine. James didn't look up, didn't speak. His silence louder than any snap, his focus locked on his screen. But the air shifted, heavier, tighter, like he was cataloging her every breath, every twitch, waiting for her to slip again, to give him something to wield later. After they left, his mom's "see you next week" trailing out the door, James didn't break the quiet, just flipped on the TV, the drone of a sports recap filling the void as Hannah moved through her routine, bathing Emma in the plastic tub. Her daughter's giggles a fleeting balm as she splashed water, singing "Twinkle, Twinkle" off-key, till Emma's eyes drooped. Then laying her down in the crib, the soft snores a tether pulling Hannah back from the edge. She scrubbed the counters till they gleamed, the sponge squeaking against the granite, her hands moving automatic, her mind replaying his flinch, his baby carrier jab, her own voice cutting through that hall like a knife. And as the Austin night settled dark outside, the condo's lights casting long shadows across the hardwood, she stood in the nursery doorway, Emma's tiny chest rising and falling, her resolve flickering. Not to fight him head-on, not yet, but to claw her way out from under his shadow. A spark she'd lit at the mic now smoldering low, ready to catch fire when the time was right. A promise she made to herself in the stillness. One James couldn't hear but would feel soon enough. The Austin's summer heat pressed thick and relentless against the condo's windows a week after Michael Carter's wedding. The air outside shimmering with haze as Hannah Carter stood in the dim kitchen at midnight. The hum of the fridge, the only sound breaking the stillness. Her bare feet cold against the tile, her hands gripping the edge of the counter, the weight of James's words from the night before. "You made me a fool. Think you're a martyr? You're stuck. No job, no plan." Still coiling tight around her chest like a rope she couldn't shake loose. 7-month-old Emma slept upstairs, her crib a soft glow on the baby monitor beside the sink, her teething cries finally quiet after hours of rocking. Hannah's arms still ached from the weight, her shirt damp with sweat and spilled formula, her mind replaying the wedding mic drop. "Sometimes they flinch when you touch them." A truth that had sparked something reckless in her, something James couldn't douse with his cold stares or clipped orders. She'd stood on the back porch last night, the condo's wooden deck creaking under her weight, facing him down. His silhouette looming in the doorway, his voice low and bitter. "You're not going anywhere. You need me." And she'd shut the door without a word, her heart pounding as she climbed the stairs, her resolve shifting from a flicker to a steady burn, a plan forming in the dark she hadn't dared voice yet. Now, alone in the kitchen, she pulled a notepad from the junk drawer, its pages yellowed, littered with old grocery lists, and scribbled under the faint light of a flickering bulb. bank account, daycare, resume, each word a lifeline, each line a step out from under his shadow, her handwriting shaky but deliberate, her breath catching as she imagined a life beyond these walls, beyond his control. Before Emma, she'd been a graphic designer. Freelance, small clients, nothing flashy but steady. Her laptop once alive with color palettes and mock-ups, her days spent sketching logos over coffee at Austin cafes, a rhythm James had scoffed at after their wedding. Why work? I make enough. Focus on us. His tone light then, but firm, until she'd boxed up her software, her dreams shelved beside old sketchbooks in the closet, gathering dust while she became the wife he wanted, the mother he ignored. She padded to the living room, the carpet soft underfoot, and dug out that laptop from under a stack of Emma's board books, its edges scratched, its battery long dead, plugging it in beside the couch, the screen flickering to life as she downloaded her old design software, her fingers trembling over the keys, tears spilling hot down her cheeks as the familiar interface loaded. Not from sadness, but from a piece of herself waking up, a version of Hannah she'd buried under his natural instinct jabs and endless diaper runs. The first login took 3 tries, her password a relic from college, sketchgirl92. And when it worked, she laughed, a small, broken sound that echoed in the empty room. Her hands hovering over tools she hadn't touched in over a year, her eyes burning from the screen's glare. But she didn't stop, sketching a rough logo for a fake bakery, her strokes clumsy but alive, her chest loosening with every line. James slept upstairs, his snores a distant rumble. She glanced at the clock, 1:47 a.m., the condo wrapped in a hush that felt like permission, her mind racing back to the wedding, his flinch, his baby carrier cut, her voice cracking over that mic. And now this, a quiet rebellion in the dark, a reclaiming she hadn't planned but couldn't halt. A week later, Emma spiked a fever, her cheeks red, her cries sharp, and Hannah called James at work, her voice tight over the kitchen phone. "She's sick. I need to take her to urgent care." His assistant patched him through, his reply cold, irritated. "You can handle it. Why call me for everything? I'm in a meeting." The line clicked dead, leaving her stunned, her hands shaking as she bundled Emma into the car seat. The Austin streets a blur of taillights as she drove alone to the clinic, waiting 3 hours in a sterile room. The nurses, "Is her dad coming?" met with a flat, "No, he's biz." Her daughter's fever breaking under a cool cloth, while Hannah sat, alone, her resolve hardening into something steel-sharp. Back home, Emma asleep in her crib, she opened a secret bank account online, $184 trickling in from a canceled client who'd forgotten to stop their autopay. A tiny fortune she hid behind a password James would never guess, EmmaFree01, and applied for 2 freelance gigs that night. Small projects, pennies really. But hers, proof she could still create, still stand. Her laptop glowing in the nursery's dim corner as Emma's soft breaths kept time. Her escape not a scream, not yet, but a whisper growing louder, a fire catching in Austin's heavy night. The Austin fall crept in subtle and slow by late September, the condo's windows fogged with early morning dew as Hannah Carter sat at the kitchen table, her laptop glowing soft in the pre-dawn hush. Her fingers hovered over a new freelance project, a website mock-up for a Vermont nonprofit. Her first real gig in months, its deadlines and modest paycheck, a lifeline she'd clawed back after nights of sketching in secret. Her secret bank account now at $372 from small jobs and selling old dresses online. Every dollar tucked away behind EmmaFree01, a password James would never crack. 7-month-old Emma slept upstairs, her crib a faint outline on the baby monitor, her soft snores a steady rhythm cutting through the quiet. Hannah's shirt still carried the faint tang of last night's formula spill. Her eyes gritty from working past 2 a.m., her body a map of exhaustion, but her mind sharp, fueled by a fire James couldn't smother, a fire that had sparked at Michael's wedding mic, flared with her first logo sketch, and now burned steady as she built her escape, piece by quiet piece. James came home late these days, whiskey on his breath, a whiff of department store cologne clinging to his jacket. His excuses thin. Networking, don't wait up. And Hannah didn't ask, didn't care. Her focus locked on her screen, her hands steady as she hid receipts in a shoebox under the couch, her plan growing roots while he stumbled to bed, oblivious to the shift under his roof. That Thursday, an old college friend, Tara, messaged her on Facebook. Freelancing again? Coffee next week? Her profile pic all wavy blonde hair and sharp smiles, a blast from a past Hannah barely recognized, and she hesitated, her fingers hovering over the reply. James hated her old friends, called them loud distractions, but she typed back, Yes, late nights mostly, baby at home. Let's catch up. Her stomach twisting as she hit send, a small defiance she buried under a smile when James glanced her way over dinner, his fork scraping his plate, his voice flat. Who's texting you? And she shrugged. Spam. Her heart thudding as he nodded, uninterested, his eyes already back on his phone. They met at a coffee shop near the Austin Library the next Tuesday, neutral ground under a gray sky. Hannah wore makeup for the first time in months, not for vanity, but armor, her navy sweater loose over jeans, her hair pulled back tight. Tara hugged her hard. You look great, tired but good. And Hannah forced a laugh. That's motherhood. The words a shield as they settled into a corner booth, the clatter of cups and low hum of chatter wrapping around them. They talked college, late-night dorm parties, mutual friends long scattered, Tara's graphic design career now thriving at a firm in Dallas, and Hannah spun the sanitized version of her life. Busy mom, supportive husband, a lie she'd perfected, until Tara's eyes softened, her voice dropping. You okay? I don't mean to pry, you just seem like someone holding her breath. And Hannah froze, her coffee cup warm against her palms, her throat tightening as she weighed how much to spill. I'm just trying to get back to myself, she said finally, quiet, and Tara nodded, no judgment. If you need help, real help, I'm here. My firm's got a daycare stipend, we hire remote designers, I can float your name. Hannah blinked, her chest loosening. You do that? And Tara grinned. You were the best in our class. I always thought you gave up too early. That night, she didn't sleep, lay awake in the dark beside James's steady snores, the ceiling a blank canvas where she traced old dreams of creative agencies and city lights, not diapers and clipped silence. 2 days later, she emailed Tara her resume, her hands shaking as she hit send, a secret she buried under folded laundry when James walked in, oblivious. A week later, he found an invoice in the mail, $120 for a logo she'd rushed overnight, holding it up like a weapon, his voice low. What's this? You're working now? And she met his gaze, calm. I never stopped being able to, James. He stared, jaw clenched. You should have talked to me. And she fired back, steady. I did. You just didn't listen. His silence stretched, eerie, not yelling, not yet, but heavier. His eyes narrowing, like he'd caught a scent he didn't trust. He walked out, the door clicking shut, and Hannah checked the locks that night, her pulse racing as she emailed Tara. I'm interested, keep me in mind. Tara's reply instant. Interview next week. And when it came, she wore a white blouse from pre-Emma days, sat in the nursery's corner, where James's presence didn't linger. Her Zoom call with Dana warm, focused, 30 minutes of color theory and branding. Not wife or mother, just Hannah. Her voice steady, her hope flickering bright. James came home late that night, tie loose, eyes glassy. Out drinking? She asked, too tired to filter. And he grunted. Work stuff. His gaze sweeping the room. Cleaner, a candle burning. Emma asleep. His voice slow. What are you so happy about? Nay. And she lied. Just tired. Her heart pounding as he nodded, cataloging her. A storm brewing she could feel but couldn't see. Her escape plan no longer a whisper, but a pulse in Austin's restless air. The Austin night hung heavy and still in late October, the condo's windows dark as Hannah Carter stood in the kitchen, her hands trembling over a sink full of dishes she'd scrubbed twice just to keep busy. Her laptop sat closed on the counter, her latest freelance payment from the Vermont nonprofit tucked into her secret account. Now at 6 her escape fund hidden behind Emma Freezor 1, a lifeline James couldn't touch, though his shadow loomed larger every day. His whiskey-soaked returns and cologne-stained jackets, a warning she couldn't ignore. 8-month-old Emma slept upstairs, her crib a soft glow on the baby monitor, her tiny breaths a fragile anchor in the storm brewing under this roof. Hannah's sweater clung damp to her skin from a day of rocking Emma through teething fits, her eyes gritty from sleepless nights plotting, her resolve steel-sharp after James's latest move. A bouquet of peonies, her favorite, left on the table 2 nights ago, his voice smooth over wine. Let's reconnect, be a team. His arm hovering, not touching. A truce that wasn't peace but surveillance. A trap she'd felt closing since he'd caught her invoice, since Tara's job offer lit a path out. She'd secured daycare that week. Rosa, a gentlewoman with warm hands, had welcomed Emma for a trial run at a bright center downtown, its walls splashed with crayon art, its air buzzing with toddler laughs. Hannah had watched through the window as Emma crawled toward a stack of blocks. Her daughter's smile a permission slip to keep going, a balm for the guilt that gnawed when James wasn't looking. She'd bought a burner phone at a gas station the next day, paying cash, its prepaid minutes a secret lifeline stashed in her purse. Her real phone had betrayed her a week back, an unfamiliar app, Secure Track, blinking in the settings, its GPS and microphone permissions a gut punch she'd deleted fast, her blood running cold as she realized James had taken her first emergency folder from the diaper bag, forcing her to hide a new one in the bathroom trash bin, triple-bagged under paper towel rolls, her heart racing every time he lingered near the sink. Tonight, she'd made the call she'd dreaded, dialing the shelter from the burner at dusk, her voice shaking as Rosa, not the daycare Rosa, but another, steady and soft, answered through static. I have a baby, and I think I need to leave soon, maybe tonight. No questions, just a calm, we'll have a room ready, come when it's safe. And Hannah hung up, her breath shallow, her plan no longer a maybe, but a now. The peonies wilting on the counter, a lie she wouldn't buy again. James sat at the table when she turned, his phone face down, his eyes locked on hers, his smile wide. Wrong, too sharp. Out again today? And she nodded, casual. Errands. His voice slow. You've been doing a lot of those. She walked past, her spine stiff, his chair scraping as he stood behind her, close but not touching, a shadow she felt on her neck as she climbed the stairs, her pulse hammering, her mind screaming it was time. She lay beside him that night, motionless, his snores steady by 2 a.m. The clock hit 3:14, and she slipped out, silent as a ghost, padding to the nursery where Emma stirred, her tiny fist curled under her cheek. Hannah kissed her forehead, whispering, We're almost there, and wrapped her in a blanket, her hands steady despite the quake in her chest. She crept downstairs, the hardwood creaking soft underfoot, her emergency bag, diapers, wipes, cash, already in the trunk from yesterday's grocery run. The burner phone glowing with shelter directions as she buckled Emma into the car seat, her daughter's eyes fluttering open then shut, trusting, calm. She unlocked the car, the click loud in the silence, praying it wouldn't carry. The key turned, the engine purred low, and she eased out, her knuckles white on the wheel. Then the porch light flicked on. James barefoot in the doorway, his silhouette still, watching. She froze, her breath caught, his figure stepping forward, slow, deliberate. Her foot slammed the gas, tires crunching gravel as she peeled away. Austin's streets swallowing her in a blur of dark houses and red lights, every shadow a threat, every second a gamble. Till 4:43 a.m., when she pulled into the shelter's lot, Rosa's arms opening wide. No questions, just a portable crib for Emma, a room with a lock for Hannah. The door clicking shut as fear faded, her daughter safe beside her, freedom a shaky dawn breaking over Austin's quiet edge. The Austin November air bit crisp and golden 2 weeks after Hannah Carter fled the condo, the shelter's small room, now her sanctuary. its walls plain but warm, a single window letting in slants of morning sun, a portable crib tucked in the corner where 8-month-old Emma slept, her tiny chest rising and falling under a patched quilt Rosa had found in storage, her soft snores a steady hum that anchored Hannah through nights of uncertainty, her own cot creaking under a thin blanket she'd pulled tight against the chill. She stood at the window, her borrowed gray dress loose over jeans, her hair tied back with a rubber band. Her burner phone sat silent on the table, its screen dark since she'd texted Tara at dawn. "We're safe." Her hands still shaky from that 4:43 a.m. escape, James's silhouette in the porch light burned into her mind. His slow step forward, a ghost she couldn't shake but wouldn't face again. The shelter's kitchen smelled of burnt toast and weak coffee. Rosa had handed her a mug that first morning, her voice soft. "You're not alone here." And Hannah had nodded, her throat too tight to speak, her $612 escape fund now a lifeline for daycare and diapers. Her freelance work paused, but not dead. Tara's job offer a promise waiting in her inbox. A part-time remote gig with real hours and real respect she'd start next week. That afternoon, Michael Carter called, his voice crackling through the burner, warm but careful. "Claire and I are hosting a post-wedding dinner. Small crowd, family and friends who couldn't travel. People still talk about your speech, Hannah. Come speak again." She almost laughed, the absurdity sharp but agreed, her fingers tightening around the phone, her heart thudding at facing James again, knowing he'd be there, spinning lies she'd already countered with proof. Pay stubs, emails, a lawyer named Carla, fierce and quick, who'd taken her case pro bono after one meeting, her eyes blazing through James's facade in minutes. The dinner unfolded at Michael's downtown loft, its exposed brick and string lights a soft glow against the Austin skyline. Hannah stepped in, Emma on her hip, her borrowed dress ironed crisp, her sneakers scuffing the hardwood as heads turned, whispers trailing her like smoke. James stood at the back, arms folded, his sharp suit rumpled, his jaw tight as he watched her. His version of her breakdown, already whispered to his mom. His claim she'd abandoned him fed to hers. But Hannah had screenshots, shelter logs, Carla's filings, a truth he couldn't twist. Michael handed her the mic, his grin wide. "You've got the floor, sis." And she took it, its weight familiar now, her breath steady as the room stilled. Emma babbling soft in Tara's arms nearby. Tara's nod a quiet anchor from the sidelines. "When I spoke at your wedding," she began, her voice clear, cutting through the hum of clinking glasses, "I said marriage is about seeing each other, and I meant it. But what I didn't say then, what I didn't have the strength for, is that sometimes you have to see yourself first, 'cause no one else will." A stillness swept the loft, heavy and real. "I spent years thinking I was less, that I'd shrink, stay silent, survive. I thought if I did it right, love would come back. That cruelty was a phase. Coldness was stress, but it wasn't." She looked up, James unmoving, his eyes hard. "I left, and it was the hardest thing I've done. Not 'cause I didn't love, but 'cause I finally loved myself more than his comfort." No one clapped, no one needed to. The silence thick with weight, her words a blade she'd honed in the dark. She handed the mic back, stepped off the makeshift stage. Michael squeezed her shoulder, Claire's smile warm. And as she passed James, she met his gaze, steady, unflinching. He said nothing, his mouth a thin line, his power gone, a man diminished by the truth she'd laid bare. Back at the shelter that night, the room dim with a single lamp, she held Emma close, her daughter's soft hair brushing her chin. She whispered, "We are free," over and over, a mantra sinking deep, her voice once stolen now ringing clear. Austin's lights fading beyond the window as a new dawn settled in her bones. Hit that subscribe button and ring the bell, folks. This Austin journey's wrapped with grit and grace, but we've got more stories of breaking free and finding voice coming your way.